Hello, welcome back to another Pen Talk. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining me as I explore the wide world of pens. I've been focusing a lot on nibs, and there are certain nibs that I've been looking for a long time, and this is one of them. It came from France, from a seller that's pretty active. Arrived relatively quickly, spent a lot of time in transit. Always like getting a nice thank you note. And here is the item that I bought. Yes, it's just a nib. Heritage certainly does promote themselves, which is good. Very well protected. The plastic tube worked well. Foam insert. The nib is then even more protected. And as we look at this, hopefully it's something that you recognize. Yes, it's a Waterman Carene nib, and it's in that left oblique style that I really like. And it's labeled an OF, which could be oblique fine. I'll do some research on that. You may ask, Chris, why would you just buy a nib? Well, many years ago, I saw this Waterman Carene for sale on eBay, and I bought it for 30 bucks. I didn't really care about the color. I just wanted the shape, the feel, and the look. And why was it $30? Because it was a rollerball. So I was hoping that this would just screw in and replace the rollerball. And thankfully, it does. I looked very closely at the pictures on the auction, and it appeared to be exactly the same section there, so I'd hoped it would just screw in. And as we say, it does, and I have plenty of converters, so I'm not concerned about that. So now I have a nice Waterman Carene pen with a beautiful nib for about as less money as I could possibly invest in this. So we're going to do a little bit of historical reference stuff based on Watermans that I have, and then we're going to ink this puppy up and see how that nib writes, and hopefully I am as happy as I expect to be. So we have a nib, we have a pen body to put it in. What we're missing is a converter. This is a Waterman's converter. I have a few of these. The one I pulled out of my Waterman 100 is exactly the same. So this was probably the converter used. And then looking at the end, it looks like a standard international opening there. But when I put this in, it just won't totally close. So this is a little bit longer than it will fit into the barrel. The barrel might have an insert in it to hold the rollerball refill. So I found this converter, which is almost exactly the same at the end, and it's slightly shorter, and it fits well inside of the section. So this is the converter that I'm going to use. And here's another international standard converter, and they're all three of these are a different length. They all have a similar end to them. So they all fit into the section, but only one of them fits well into the barrel. Here's my little comparison part of the video. And we have here two Watermans. Probably their production separated by about 10 or 15 years. This is a Le Mans 100. Early 1990s. I bought it new at Franken-pen Hospital. I didn't buy it. I traded for it. And the Carene came out in the mid-2005, somewhere around there. Both of these were the high end of the Waterman line at the time, both made in France. If you're going to compare these two pens, the Le Mans 100 to me is a significantly better pen in a lot of regards. And we'll talk about the writing experience of the Carene in that part of the video. And I have here a Parker Dual-Fold International, primarily because of the nib. So let's look at the nibs. A quick look at them posted. The only pen of this group I would post would be the Carene. The International is okay, and the Le Mans 100 is just big, and it's a heavy pen, and it's back weighted, and the cap snaps in place, so it's certainly secure, but not necessarily gives you a pen that's balanced well for writing in my regard. Let's zoom in on the nib end. So the Le Mans 100 has your standard nice 18 karat gold nib. I enjoyed writing with it. Wet writer, smooth, a little soft, but certainly nice. In a standard size section, it slopes down, metal ring here at the bottom. The International has more of a classic shape section, and this nib is a fine oblique, which is what I would also call the Carene nib 2, a left oblique, one might refer to it as. But the Carene definitely has a more unique shape to the section, and we have that nice inlaid 18 karat gold nib, which I admit I like the way that it looks. But a nib is not just judged by its looks alone. And this section is a little bit thin, so is the one on the International, but I have more difficulty with this style and shape of section, especially in a pen like this. It's a little bit on the heavy side, not a lot, but it's a little bit more than average. And I find this hourglass shape section, from my writing style, to be more preferred, and this is my second preferred, and this is my third preferred in this group of pens. So what ink to put into the Waterman Carene? Well, I expect the nib to be a little on the wet side, and I expect it to lay down a fairly generous line, so we're going to use this ink. It's an ink I don't think I've used in a review before, and I'm not familiar with what pen I may have inked up with this, but I've had it for a year or so. And it's Pen BBS number 68, what they call Shading Sky Blue. I'm certain that's some type of translation of the Chinese name for this ink, but I think it's an appropriate name. If you look at the chromatography, it's pretty much blue. And it looks like, you got a concentration of intense blue at the very top, so that might indicate some shading. But we'll have to see when we put nib to paper. I got a fairly full fill. Again, this is once down, once up. The first time came up, the ink only came up about halfway, then down again and expel more air, bring it back up, and it filled pretty close to this level, then down and up again, because even though I flush this well, I always like to give it a good flush with the ink I'm writing with. Now we're to that all important point of what do I think of this Waterman Carene pen. A lot of people love it. A lot of people consider it a great pen and their grail pen or things of that nature. And I certainly got a nib that I hope to have liked quite a bit. And you may say, Chris, it looks like it's turntable worthy. And I'm doing the turntable in homage to those people who love the pen, because I do not. I've had the pen for a couple days now, inked up. It does write well. It's a smooth writer, but it's not a comfortable pen for me to write with for a number of reasons. The first reason is the nib is extremely stiff. It is a nail. It is a brick. So that is something that kind of not what I expected. Secondly, the way the pen is weighted, even though that section is a section I've enjoyed on other pens, the shape is nice, it just doesn't feel good in my hand. So after writing 2 pages of a letter, my hand starts to feel tired and get crampy. So I have to be honest, it's not a girl pen in my book by any stretch of the imagination. I do love the design. I think Waterman did a phenomenal job at capturing that feeling of a ship and the streamlined design and just the combination. It is very artistically well done. And I think they tried to do their best to make a good writing pen, but it's just not the pen for me. And that's one thing to keep in mind, is pens are very personal items. Each of us have our own pens that we love and not love, and this is one of them in the not love category. I'm so glad I have it. I enjoy the blue color. The crab is going to give you a wink, and we're going to show the nib on paper. So it's kind of a giveaway because I already discussed my feelings on writing with the pen, but let's show you what it actually is. In my hand, which I'd say is a medium size, this pen feels small without posting. And the weight just feels dense. I don't know how else to describe it. I do think that section is the right diameter, and you can hold it anywhere. There's no limitations to where you put your fingers, including right down at the nib. It does post deeply and fairly securely, and it makes, to me, for too heavy of a pen. And again, the weighting is just not what I'm in favor of. So we'll give you the dimensions of that section. It's a long section. We'll give you the weights of the pen, just so you can put things in perspective. Now let's listen to the nib on paper. Well, hopefully you heard how smooth this oblique fine 18 karat gold nib is. It is very smooth. It glides across the paper. No feedback. And I would say it's medium wet. Ink dries pretty quick. I do like the color. I kind of was hoping for a little bit more shading, but it still is good. I don't think I have another ink that is the same color. So now we're going to rate this pen. I'm going to give it a 9.1. And it actually, we'll get one check for the nib and one check for the design and the build, but it's just not as a comfortable a pen to write with as I expected. The pen is still being sold. There's plenty of these around. They're generally on the expensive side. That's why I was very happy to be able to get this one put together. Franken version of the pen. And I'm glad I have this in my collection because it's a pen that I think everybody should experience and make their own judgments on whether they are in love with it or not. We've reached the end of this video. Thank you for watching. May you have many great pen writing experiences and enjoy this amazing wide world of pens that we have the opportunity to take part in. So put some ink on paper, share your thoughts, read them later. Just enjoy that feeling. This is the end for now. And we're going to say bye until the next video. I think I could get to like this pen a little bit more, and that line variation is nice. I feel I have to do a postscript with this pen in this video. I'm certain some people might question why I've given some pens that are very inexpensive a much higher rating than I give the Carene. Part of the challenge is how I view value and how I view my expectations and whether they are fulfilled or not. So when I spend over $100 for a pen, I expect to be wowed, I expect to be excited, I expect to be blown away. And when a pen doesn't do that, I think it is less enjoyable for me. I might buy a $10 pen and I go, wow, when I put nib to paper, that I think has an extreme value to it. And certainly does influence my rating. I try to do videos so you can make that determination as the viewer as to whether you like a pen or not. And my opinion is just my opinion. I don't consider myself a pen critic. I consider myself a pen reviewer. And to me, you need to review the pen that you have and describe how that pen works for you, feels for you, and writes for you. So hopefully that was of value and of interest. We're saying bye again.